The next feature of Indian society, diversity and unity. In fact, this is one of the most important features. We'll see why I consider it to be one of the most important features. So, diversity. What do we mean by diversity? Diversity means collective differences which mark off one group for the other. Let's say there is a group of people. They have something in common. There's something which holds them together. But then there is another group. They have something in common which is different from this group. For example, let's say there is a group. Here, they all speak the same language. They all speak Tamil. There's another group of people here. They speak the same language, but this language is Punjabi. So, on the basis of what they speak, what language they speak, you can differentiate this group from other. Collective differences. Difference that exists between collectivity of people. One collectivity is here, one group of people is here, another collectivity is here, another group of people is here. What differentiates one group from other? In case of India, we have massive amount of diversity. In fact, this is, if you have been going through the lectures, right, features of Indian society, right, you would have already realized. We started with caste system in India, right? So, Indian society, you have what is called as the caste system, though the impact of caste system might have changed over a period of time, but now also caste exists. People associate themselves with caste. And it's not just a fourfold classification. You have more than 4,000 endogamous groups, the jatis. So there is huge diversity along these lines. Tribal communities, we used one form of classification with LP Vidyarthi's classification. There also we saw so many different tribes are there in India. Religion, again, people practice different faith. And again, within each of the religion, again, practices might vary. There is huge diversity over there. There are so many sects and cults also emerging apart from those religions that we talked about. There are also people who might not subscribe to any faith. Family structures, we were trying to understand. Here also there is massive variation. How the families are organized. We saw different kinds of families can be there and they do exist in India. The way, the structure of the family, the functions in the family also varies from place to place. Matrilocal, patriarchal, matrilineal, all the different kind of combinations. The size of the families also vary. There also you'll have diversity. So the point is, you have massive diversity in India. And these are some parameters. On top of that, there can be other factors as well. The way classes are there, the way people are divided, stratified into classes, it can vary. The extent of socioeconomic development might change from place to place. In some region, the socioeconomic development levels are good. In some other places, the socioeconomic development levels are not good. The literacy rates can vary. Per capita incomes can vary. So within India, again, you have different Indias maybe. So all these shows how much diverse a country like India is in terms of religion, caste, tribe, culture. Go from one district to another, you'll find a different culture. The kind of food people are eating, it will be different. The kind of functions they are celebrating, the kind of festivals they're celebrating, it will be different. Some people say that go from one place to another, the cuisine changes. You might have seen all these travel bloggers going from one place to another and they will be identifying, oh, how the food has changed from this place to another. The language. So many languages are spoken in India. Many languages, they might not even have their own written script. So many dialects, tribal communities, among them there is so much of variations in terms of the language they speak. And yeah, look at India's geography. So varied. You have the Himalayas, you have the Thar Desert, then you have the coastal areas, you have the plateau. And keep in mind, people's lifestyle is also related with the kind of geography that they are in. If you are in a desert, people's dresses, customs, the kind of food they consume, it will be dependent on that. If someone is staying in a cold desert, again, things will be different. If they're staying in a forested region, their practices will be different. Given that India has so much amount of regional diversity, all these practices and everything will be different. people's livelihood will be different. People who stay in the coastal areas, their again, food might be different, their livelihood might be different. They might be dependent on the oceans for that. So India is diverse. What I'll do is I'll just show you some illustrations before we move to one interesting question. Right. So this is these illustrations. Again, this illustration shows you different kinds of practices through the length and breadth of the country. What kind of celebrations we have, what kind of uh, recreational activities people take up, what kind of sports people pursue. All these things are depicted here. Now let's move to another illustration. So this is about which language is spoken in which part of the country. Basically, if you divide India into different states and see which is the language that is most spoken in that particular state, how will it look like? So all these different color codes that you see, they are for languages. For example, this orange saffron color is Hindi. And you can see large parts of the country, especially the central part of India. Again, it's called the Hindi heartland. Most of the people in these states speak Hindi. Gujarati, Marathi, Kannada, in Andhra Pradesh as well as Telangana, it is Telugu, Tamil, Malayalam, Oriya, Bengali. Right? So different parts of the country, different states in India, the most spoken language is reflected here. What is interesting is this particular illustration is so colorful. Right? So look at the northeastern states. Massive variation here as well. Assamese, Mizo, Nishi, right? So different kinds of languages you find here. So this shows so much amount of linguistic diversity that we have in India. Now let's do some twist to it. Let's see which is the second most commonly spoken language in each of these states. Now the color changes drastically and see how it looks like. Look at this dark green color maybe. Urdu. So Urdu is the most commonly, not most, the second most commonly spoken language in Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Karnataka, Telangana, as well as Andhra Pradesh. Look at in Rajasthan, the second most commonly spoken language, not only in Rajasthan as well as Haryana, is Punjabi. This light green is Punjabi. In Orissa, again, it is Bengali. In Chhattisgarh, it is Oriya. So it shows how people might have moved from one place to another and how a particular language is becoming the second most common language in different parts of the country. So it shows the extent of diversity, linguistic diversity in India. Now, I just wanted to show you certain paintings. These are all different kinds of tribal paintings. At some point of time, we discussed how we have so many tribal communities in India and how their practices also vary, how their beliefs also vary, how they might practice different types of religion, how they might speak different kind of languages. Many of these tribes, they create things as well. They create these beautiful paintings and see how all these paintings are different from one another. These are all from different tribal communities. For example, this is a Gond painting. Gond painting by Gond tribals. So again, mostly in Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, you have Gonds. So this is the kind of paintings they make. This is a Sora painting done by Sora tribes in Orissa. This is a Bhil painting. One thing that you'll observe is this, if you zoom, that you'll observe that this painting is composed of dots. That's how they do it. This is a Sohrai painting by some communities in Jharkhand. This is again painting made by communities, tribal groups in West Bengal, Jharkhand. So this is so colorful. The way they are interpreting things around them, the way they're interpreting things they participate in, it is completely different. Right? So this also reflects the amount of diversity that exists in the Indian context. Now, one obvious question from this, from all that we saw, India has so much amount of diversity, right? So this paintings, they give you an idea how much diversity that we have in the Indian context. Now, another way also we can think of diversity. In India, there are different regions, right? In different regions, the extent of socioeconomic development is also different. As a result of which, if you look at a region's performance in terms of different socioeconomic indicators, literacy rate or incomes, that will also vary. So let's look at some of these numbers. If you look at GDP per capita, it gives you an idea about how much economic activity is happening here. It gives you an idea about how much incomes people are having. So here also, look at the variation. In Bihar, the GDP per capita is around $2,300. And in Goa, the GDP per capita is somewhere around $22,000, almost 10 times. Huge variation, right? So people's living standards, how different it will be, how varied it will be. People's life chances, it will vary massively. Literacy rate. Look at Bihar. Right? Bihar's literacy rate is somewhere around 64%. So if you take 100 people, 36 of them most likely would not have seen a school, would not have been within the classrooms. On the other hand, Kerala is the most literate state. 94% of people who are in this part of the country, they are literate. Huge variation. Now, fertility rate. Fertility rate implies, on an average, how many children a female is expected to give birth to in her lifespan. So fertility rate in Bihar is 3. An average female, on an average, a female in Bihar is expected to give birth to 3 children. On the other hand, Sikkim has the lowest fertility rate, a state which is not very far from Bihar. Right? It is just 1.1, lowest fertility rate. Life expectancy. How many years on an average an individual is expected to survive? Assam, the life expectancy is 64 years. Kerala, the life expectancy is 75 years. Huge difference, 11 years. A person in Assam is most likely going to survive 11 years less than a person who is in Kerala. Again, life expectancy is dependent on a host of factors. Most likely, the kind of health infrastructure that you have, the kind of health services that you have, the kind of public health apparatus that you have. So huge variations here. So now the obvious question that you might have is, if you have so much variations in the country, if you have this much amount of diversity in the country, how come there is unity as well? You have people speaking different languages. You have people following different kinds of customs. You have people following different kinds of caste regulations, maybe regulations of the caste system. You have people who are at different levels of socioeconomic development. So how come there is unity despite so much amount of diversity? And again, this is a valid question, right? Because different people will be having different interests. A part of their identity will be the language they speak, will be the caste they are part of, will be the tribe they belong to, will be the religion they have faith in. So there are people who are so different from one another. And on top of that, the socioeconomic development levels are also varying massively, 10 times GDP per capita between the state which performs the best and the state which performs the worst. So what ensures that there is this amount of unity in the Indian context? Now, what I would suggest is maybe you can just pause for a minute. Right? Again, whatever is there in the screen will come to this, but I would suggest pause for a minute and reflect. What ensures that there is unity among people in India? And yeah, I mean, there is more or less unity, right? We all have a part of our identity, or a part of our identity is we are Indians, we are part of the Indian society. So we subscribe to this. So how come we have this unity? And how come we are all integrated? But what I would suggest is always try to link different things together, right? You have already studied history, you have studied geography, economics, international relations, all these things that you have studied. Always try to link different subjects together. Don't study something in isolation. Here also, to answer this question, What you can do is maybe look at art and culture, maybe look at history. From there, you will get some points. In fact, you can also look at economics, geography as well, polity as well. What can be some of the factors which has held the Indian society together? If you look at history, you will find different monarchs in India, different points of time. They have tried to expand their empires. They have tried to bring large part of the country, present day India, under their fold. Yes, all these things would have been for smaller durations. But when you are making these attempts, when these monarchs would have made these attempts, it would have also led to fusion of ideas. It would have led to a flow of ideas across different places within this large entity. You have examples of uh, Mauryan Empire. You have example of Gupta Empire, and again at other points of time, for example, Mughal Empire. And there have been instances where large part of the present day India was under the control of one particular political elite. All these things might have helped, at least from the perspective of culture. Similar kind of culture would have been developed. There would have been some form of integration because of that flow of ideas. Then, when the Britishers are coming to India, they are to a large extent trying to create an administrative unity, in the sense that similar kind of administrative mechanisms that they are creating, judicial system, civil administration system, they're trying to create, right? So that might have also played its bit. But the most important factor that has helped in creation of this unity is the Indian state itself, which has been formed through the constitution. Look at the Indian constitution. Look at the fundamental features of the Indian constitution. Look at the fundamental principles over there. All these different features, principles plays a very significant part in holding the Indian society together. Let us look at some of these features one by one. The Indian constitution creates the Indian state, and one of the feature it talks about is federalism. That means you have not one government, you have government at the union level, you also have government at the level of the states. How does it help in holding the country together? Let's say there was just one government, unitary form of government, one government at the center. India is huge. There are different sets of people, their preferences, priorities will be different. People in Kerala, their priority will be something. People in the northern parts of India, their priority will be something. People in the extreme east, the northeastern part of India, their priorities will be different. If you have just one government, understanding these diverse preferences would have been extremely difficult. People's preference will be something, the government would have provided for something. It would have led to different kinds of conflicts, rifts. And maybe there would have been emergence of different kinds of uh, conflicts, and vociferous tendencies would have been there. And maybe some of these places, some of these regions would have said, okay, we don't want to be part of the Indian Union. That might have been a possibility. But what we did, we created a federal setup. So different states are formed. And again, mostly they're formed on some cultural basis. Either they're formed on the basis of language or they're formed on the basis of ethnic identity. Some of the states in the northeastern part of India based on ethnic identity, tribal identities, ethnicity. So this ensures that people have a say in things that are most relevant to them. The state governments provide most of the services which you use on a day-to-day basis, which impact you on a day-to-day basis: law and order, education, health, all these things. Usually, the states provide for, and people themselves are deciding for it. So federalism helps in holding people together. It helps in ensuring that people feel that they are the ones who are controlling their own destinies. Not only federalism, we also have gone one step ahead. We have democratic decentralization. The 73rd, 74th Constitutional Amendment Act. It talks about democratic decentralization. Panchayat Raj institutions, urban local bodies. They're part of the constitution. So people govern on their own. People govern themselves. Panchayat Raj institution, our local bodies, different kind of services. People decide on their own, right? They decide what is important for them, and accordingly, they find out ways for that. Another very important aspect, apart from federalism and democratic decentralization, is the provision for secularism. The Indian state does not have any state religion. The Indian state maintains equal distance from all religion. Indian state does not favor one religion or does not discriminate against one religion. It maintains equal distance. Just imagine a scenario where the Indian state would have formed on the basis of a religion. There would have been a state religion, maybe. Just like you have Pakistan, Islamic State of Pakistan. So it would have meant that the other communities, they will not get equal treatment, which in turn would have led to discontentment among these religions. But no, we went ahead with secularism. Equal distance is being maintained with all religions. And on top of that, we also provide for different kinds of fundamental rights related to religion. Minorities, they might have some apprehension because we are a democracy. Democracy means rule of the majority, which also implies that minorities might not have enough say. So we go ahead with some provisions which ensure that minorities' rights are also protected. So we have different kinds of minority rights. Also, there are so many rights enshrined within the constitution, the fundamental rights, right to equality. There should not be any discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, religion. Also, the society back then was not progressive, traditional, different kind of primordial identities people subscribed to, adhered to. Different kinds of discriminatory, inhuman practices were being carried out. There were certain communities which were lagging behind. The constitution recognizes that. The constitution abolishes different kinds of inhuman practices. Untouchability is an example of that. Trafficking of human beings. Again, the constitution recognizes this was happening, it abolishes it. And the constitution recognizes that there are certain sections of the population which are lagging behind, they have to be uplifted. And it comes up with provisions for that. Affirmative action, positive discrimination, scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, multiple features within the constitution are for that. Schedule 5 of the constitution, schedule 6 of the constitution, representation in legislature, representation in politics, representation in employment, public employment, representation in educational institutions. Right? So if all these things were not there, some communities would have lagged behind. Discriminatory practices against them would have continued. Not that it has been completely eliminated, but we are moving in a positive direction. If all these discriminatory practices would have continued, if upliftment of certain communities would not have happened, there would have discontentment among them. And all these things could have led to vociferous tendencies, breaking the unity of the Indian society. So our constitution has played this significant role. On top of it, the makers of the constitution, they also realized two things here. That in future, new problems might emerge. New issues can emerge. So they also have given some flexibility. They have realized that constitution should not be something which should be static. Constitution should be dynamic. It should evolve with time. So there are also provisions to change the constitution so that it takes into consideration the requirements of the society. Society changes, the needs might also change, and the constitution can be accordingly modified. So there is provision for that. Also, the constitution makers, framers of the constitution, realized that there can be instances where the unity of the state, the unity of the society might be compromised. There can be some risks. So that is why they have also provided for some special circumstances where union government will have a larger role to play. The federal constitution that we have might have more unitary features at that point of time. Emergency and all those provisions are there. So the point is, the Indian state that we have created We are part of it now. We might not have created the framers of the constitution have created, and we are part of it. We contribute to the Indian state, by the way. So this document has played a very, very significant role in holding the society together. Right? I would want you to appreciate this document. Right? I would appreciate you to look at this document from this angle. Don't look at it as a document which has X number of articles, it has X number of parts, etc. Look at the features of this and how this has played a very, very significant role in our society. It's a legal document, but massive role when it comes to society. So all these are different provisions, how our constitution prevents discrimination, how it promotes equality, how it is promoting the socio-economic interest of some of the most vulnerable sections, right? All these things are mentioned here, and I'm pretty sure you would have either gone through your polity lessons or you are going to go through the polity lessons. There again, you will come across some of these points at that point of time. Try to link it, right? Some of these things I just mentioned, Schedule 5, Schedule 6 of the Constitution. There you will realize what, or there you will study what these Schedule 5, Schedule 6 of the Constitution are and how they are playing its bit. So this is about unity and diversity. We are a diverse society, but we are also a united society. Uh, this is important. Uh, there are some elements which might be of concern. At some point, I mean, we have also seen instances which threaten the unity of the nation, but we have also seen that those elements which bind the nation together are stronger. We will see some of those issues which have threatened the unity of the nation. We will study regionalism, communalism, these things as we proceed. We have separate sessions on that. We'll see that, but at the same time, we will see how some of these things can be overcome. So this is about the different features of Indian society. We talked about caste system, we talked about tribes, we talked about religions, we talked about social classes in India. Also, we saw how there is this diversity in India and how, despite the diversity, we are united. And we also looked at the institution of family and how it has been changing in the Indian context and how it varies from place to place.